of the things that can't be attacked is your self-custody Bitcoin. And one of the things that can be attacked is the ETF. You can't be exposed to that. That's my view. It's not a good idea. And by the way, that'll hit MSTR too. It'll probably hit other stuff as well. Friends and enemies, welcome back. Canadian Bitcoiners Podcast.
Friends and enemies, welcome to the CBP. Want to be better informed? Listen to Len and Joey. Sponsors taken care of right off the top. Bull, Bitcoin, and easy DNS. The media is feeding the slop. It doesn't matter what topics discussed. Quality entertainment and information you can trust.
That's being planned or at least discussed. You know, we're not going to allow people to buy stuff
and information you can trust. Send the guy some value, boost them with some stats. Bitcoin is a scarcity asset, I mean it's just a fact. Geopolitical, national, down to the local cloud.
Friends and enemies, welcome to yet another edition of the Mighty CBP. I'm not sure if this is going live or not. I got an error when I said it. Either way, it's going to be a recording. You're going to get it later on. This is what happens when you send in the B team to do the job. And plus, I'm using a backup computer. My main computer unfortunately didn't work it with my mic and my camera, so just an extreme mess on my end. But hey, you know what? Busy times, and I just don't have time to fix it. Either way, Toine coming in just a few minutes. We'll be talking about home heating, and at the same time of home heating, you could do some Bitcoin mining. Check that out. That's going to be pretty damn cool. But before we go any further, I want to bring in, or at least talk about, the sponsors of today's show. We have 3 different sponsors, one being 256 Heat. We'll talk about that in a minute. Easy DNS. We've been a customer of them for a long time, very long time. We're a customer. You should be a customer too, right? Like if you're looking to register a domain name, they got you covered. If you're looking for DNS hosting services, they're fast, they're secure. If you're thinking of starting up a website or an email server, these are the guys that talk to. They've been in this game for decades, and this is plural. They've been doing this for quite some time. And if you're looking also to set up a virtual private server, if you want to screw out a few things, a few web applications, they do have that option as well for you. So they offer that. They're not going to rug you. Why? If you listen to Mark, you'll understand what he's all about. They're virtually unruggable. And you can pay with your Bitcoin. That's another cool thing. They accept your Bitcoin if you want to use that as a medium of exchange. They're so confident with their product that, in fact, if you're not happy with what they're offering you, they'll give you 100% money back guarantee. Nobody else is doing that. They're doing that because they know that they're offering good services. So check them out. If you use our promo code CBP Media, 50% will be taken off your initial purchase. You might as well make that first buy huge, massive, gigantic. That's Easy DNS. Check them out, easydns.com. Second sponsor is Bull Bitcoin. You're going to buy Bitcoin. You're going to sell Bitcoin. These are the guys you want to talk to. I talk about them in a good light because them being non-custodial now, you could do limit orders. You could do a lot of different options. But the non-custodial part, let's look at that, especially for new people in this space. They're thinking, I'm going to buy Bitcoin, and I'm going to let somebody else hold on to that Bitcoin. This is what you don't want to do. This sets you up to eventually get rugged. Look at stuff like Quadriga, Einstein. There's a number of different BlockFi, so many different options out there that you could use as an example. You can't get rugged like that with Bull Bitcoin because when you make your purchase, you can't facilitate the buy until you provide an address. Without providing the address, you can't make the buy. Now, it could be a fake address. If you want to burn your Bitcoin, you could do that, but you got to provide an address in order for it to work. You want to pay your bills with your Bitcoin? Bull Bitcoin will let you do that. Check them out. If you use our promo code, it's down below. By doing that and signing up, a little bit will be taken off all your buys forever. Your buys and sells, so it's going to be a little bit cheaper. So you might as well use our code to make a few buys and sells. Check them out, and they're available in Canada, Mexico, Western Europe, a bunch of places. But I think you're in Canada. If you are, Bull Bitcoin, they're the ones to talk to. And last but not least, I'm going to let Toine talk about this one, and it's 256 Heat. Toine, how are you, buddy?
Doing well, man. Nice to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
A pleasure to bring you back on once again. Now, I just want to say that 256 is a sponsor of the Mighty CBP, and we're so happy with you coming on board with us. And not just that, the people that have purchased units from you are very happy. But maybe you could give just a brief rundown. What is 256 Heat? Because then that way people understand why it is you're sponsoring us, what they could get from you. Just a quick overview, and we could dive deep into that later on in the show.
Sure, yeah, no, I'm appreciative of you guys too. It's the company basically was founded a couple of years ago, and my goal was as simply put as possible, my goal is to convert your heating bill into stacked sats. That's kind of the long and short of it. There's so many different ways to do that, and I guess we'll go into that more during our conversation. But the idea is acquiring Bitcoin at a budget neutral, on a monthly basis, a budget neutral way. And if you need the heat, it's a waste product of these miners. So my focus has been trying to figure out the best practices or the best methods for using the heat, utilizing that heat for so many applications. Heating the home is one, but there's so many others we can talk about. And then squeezing as much Bitcoin out of that electric bill as possible. So, sub 2-year ROI. These are the kinds of things that I target when I build these systems. Each system is kind of like a bespoke hash rate heater. And the reason is these ASICs, these application-specific integrated circuit, these miners are so configurable. So, I'd like to talk a little bit about the value of the heat audit, which is a complimentary thing I do with every client just to understand their needs. Because an off-the-shelf product can work, but it'll either be overshooting or undershooting your use case. And the heat audit is what allows me to kind of dial in the settings on the miner or miners, or the hash rate heaters, I should call them, because they're actually a lot more than just Bitcoin miners, the way I see them.
So the heat audit, do you do any checking to see how cold a particular area of the home is compared to others, or like what's involved in the whole heat audit process?
Yeah, so the first thing I try to do is understand the volume that you're heating, where you live on the earth, ceiling heights, because you're heating a volume, not a square footage. So ceiling heights are extremely important. And then getting into like age of the windows, insulated or uninsulated. Are there large bay doors that are constantly opening and closing, letting the heat out? All these things make a difference on how you set up the miner. So I always ask these questions so that I can send off a quote that most accurately kind of realizes the value of these systems. So you can squeeze as much out of these things as possible and prioritize comfort as well as efficiency in stacking sats.
And in terms of the units, what's the least costly unit you offer? Do you have anything that's less efficient than an S19 or one of the variants of that?
No, the S19J Pro is basically the least efficient. But funny thing about that is, with aftermarket fans and aftermarket firmware and tuning and aftermarket power supplies, I change a whole bunch of these aspects of these miners. I'm actually able to get like sub 24 watts per terahash. So you're talking about like S19K Pro territory, and those machines are still probably over $2,000 new. I think you can get them used for around $1,500-$1,600, but there's incredible value there because they're not just Bitcoin miners. These things are hash rate heaters, thermostat controlled, extremely quiet. I've had a recent innovation with that 120 volt hash rate heater I'm referring to, where I've changed the enclosure for them, and it's made it even quieter, so sub 50 decibels. So you're talking about as loud as a dishwasher, and easy to install, wall mountable, which is something I've always had a problem with like, so these units are supposed to replace electric heaters, space heaters. So I always thought space heaters had a critical design flaw in that they're freestanding units, and you never want to have a cable on a high wattage unit traversing a floor that could be, it just seemed like a bad idea. So going forward, or actually for a while now, I've had all my units wall mountable, and this latest unit that's enclosed in like basically a very slim cabinet is nice because it's very shippable now. That was one of the issues I was having, relying on a lot of 3D printed parts. Turns out not to be the best idea. So it's great if you don't have to ship it like across a border or across the country. But there are some challenges with that. So I've had to innovate a way around it. But just to answer your question kind of more succinctly, the 120 volt unit is like a 1350, 1400 watt unit, produces about 55 terahash at about 23.5 joules per terahash, or 23.5 watts per terahash. So Even right now with the price where it is, you're about $100 a month in revenue. And it costs about that, maybe 110 a month to run it. And that's based on an 11.5 cent per kilowatt hour price in Ontario. I just got my bill for November. I think it was 11.8 cents per kilowatt hour. So all over Canada, though, except for a few provinces, but the main, like the larger provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, and especially Quebec, it's really a no-brainer because these things are either giving you free heat or they're paying you to run them. In the worst case, you're getting 90% of your heating expenses subsidized in Bitcoin. So, yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
And for people that have the tiered pricing for electricity, we have that here in Ontario. I'm not sure about other parts of the country, but at least let's focus on Ontario. Are you able then to throttle up and throttle down these units so that you're taking advantage of when energy is cheapest? So you're maximizing how much energy, how much watts are being consumed by the unit, and you're lowering the amount of watts that's being consumed when energy is more efficient. Sorry, when it's more costly. Like, do you have that? Do people have that flexibility to do that?
So on the 240 volt systems, yes. What I did with the space heater is I tried to make it as efficient as possible. So I tuned to maximum efficiency, maximum wattage, maximum hash rate, and lowest sound. So there's kind of like if you look at all these things as curves, there's kind of a crossover around 1400 watts. Now the 240 volt systems that are best, exhausted into the air return of the furnace, those ones are highly configurable in terms of you can specify all kinds of different parameters to make sure you're utilizing the best hash rate or wattage at the best time. But just to get back to you said tiered is kind of like the fixed cost. So you're basically just paying one cost. There's no different pricing for different times a day. Then you have time of use, which you have 3 different costs. And then you have the one that I recommend is ultra low overnight. This is the one I recommend if you have like a natural gas or some sort of, like, most furnaces by code now are natural gas. So the idea is you just curtail Monday to Friday, 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And by doing that, I think right now it's like 27% more profitable. So what happens is your Bitcoin miner becomes your primary heater, your furnace becomes your secondary heater. And the nice thing about that is, well, A, you can rely on it when electricity is expensive, but B, if your internet goes out or if there's a problem with the miner, you don't freeze. So I've been setting up a few of those systems lately in Ontario, and they work so well, especially with that. They just raised it from 2.8 cents, I think, to 3.1 cent per kilowatt hour from 11 p.m. till 7 a.m. But I turn my units on at 9 because it's still profitable at 9 p.m. I think it's more like, I forget the exact number, 11 or 12 cents a kilowatt hour Canadian.
But the Ultra, it's so cheap. It's almost like as close to being free as possible.
Yeah, we're like Paraguay pricing. It's ridiculous.
But just for a few, what is it, for 6 hours, 5 hours in total? What's the?
Hold on. So 11 till 7, so that's 8 hours.
And I think that the idea for that, you're trying to encourage people that have like electric cars and shit like that.
That's what it is. Yeah. And also on the weekends, the highest rate on that pricing model is like 8.6 cents per kilowatt hour. And then again, from 11 to 7, even on the weekend, you have that ultra low, I think it's 3.1 cents. They just raised it last month. So, but I did a comparison after the raise. My electric rate went from 11.25 cents a kilowatt hour to 11.8. So they said that you would be compensated on the rebate side of the bill, and it looks like it's true. There's a very little difference. So I had a big sigh of relief when I saw that bill come in today, because it was not very different from where it was a year ago or even last month. So still a valid use case here.
I want to talk about this recent revelation or this change you have with the enclosures. You changed them to make them even more quiet. They're now 50 decibels. Before, what was the sound? Like, how loud were the units before you made this change?
So they were 51. Quiet. There were 51 decibels, but here's the thing. It's like the Richter scale. It's exponential.
Yeah. So
the difference between 47 or 49 and 51 is pretty noticeable. So it doesn't seem like a huge jump, but it's the difference between having it in the living room and having it kind of in the basement or in the garage. Now it's far more acceptable. Like I can have it beside my TV and it doesn't affect my viewing experience or my listening experience. I could even share. I have some images I just snapped of the first prototype, and then one's shipping out tomorrow to a CPP viewer in Saskatchewan. So thank you. I'm not going to say your name, but thank you for buying the first one off the.
Thank you, Saskatchewan person.
Yes, thank you, Saskatchewan person. Yeah, you mind if I share?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, it shouldn't take too long.
Just a question: are you doing the design and you're looking at the sound waves? Are you going to the point like like I understand how they do it when they tune the sounds for cars and mufflers? They try to figure out this frequency. Are you doing all that shit with you? Are you going to that level? Holy fuck!
I have a decimometer. I have other instruments that kind of evaluate the sound, whether it's the intensity or the quality or the frequency. So I've bought some instruments on that to understand better. Sometimes the human ear can be fooled, and what's really the findings that were really interesting for me were floor covering and size of room. So the difference between a carpeted room and like a tiled room is huge. It's like 2 decibels for the same system. The difference between a large room and a small room, it's about 2 decibels as well. So if you have it in like a 300 square foot garage, it's going to be a little louder than if you have it in like a carpeted 600 square foot living area, like kitchen, living, dining kind of thing. So that's been an interesting kind of discovery through testing. Are you able to see the screen, or is it showing yet?
I'll bring it up.
Okay. So here, kind of, excuse the mess. This is kind of like my staging area, but this is the concept, and the idea is this cover plate just goes on. I figured out a way to have like a 1/4 inch bolts coming through the back on this one. This is kind of like the finished one. This was the first prototype. What's nice about it is how it goes on. It's basically just French. This is a French cleat, and it has pre-drilled holes 16 inches center to center. So essentially, you just mount that French cleat on where you're lowest, where you want the bottom of it to terminate, and then you just put the thing on and shoot 2 screws into the studs that's already pre-drilled. It's already lined up. These fins are longer than the backing, so it'll just lock in. It locates it left to right, and I love these things. The full dimensions are, so it's 30 inches tall by 19.
That looks so fucking good, man.
Well, here's the new one beside the old one, right? So this one was definitely not wife approved, and this one, this is something I was working on, the wife approval factor. This is paintable ply, so you can actually have it match your walls. I could swap the 1/4 inch front cover for white, black, gloss, mirror, whiteboard, chalkboard, whatever you want. So it adds a little extra functionality. It's just a cabinet on the wall, so it's very nondescript. This kind of looks like a Russian nuclear experiment. That's how I've described it in the past. But it's been a huge innovation, and figuring out the wall mounting and figuring out the whole French cleat system, and even eliminating some 3D printed components is nice, because it's this box is almost indestructible, and that allows me to ship it. That, as you kind of recall, that was one of the issues I was having with shipping. I had to disassemble them and send it in 2 different boxes, and it was kind of a pain, and I wanted to make it easier for the end user. So this is something I've kind of been relentlessly attacking for the last 2 weeks to figure out, I guess just in time for Christmas. But this is the first one that's shipping out. And it has these, I don't know if you've ever used a DSLR, but it's got these really nice kind of tactile machined black aluminum, what would you call them? Like screw caps. So you can just take them off by hand, remove the cover, and then just put it back on, screw it back on. So it's really, really quick and easy. It's, it's a little, I might be able to get it even smaller in the future. But like, I actually don't mind the size at all. It fits in one box. Like I said, virtually indestructible. I have a 3-inch pad all the way around the box, similar to how the Bitcoin miners ship, when they're stock. So that's something I kind of wanted to share with you.
So Torp is asking, I need this, but it's got to be easy for me, sub 80.
That's another thing I was working on. So I set up the payout stuff in-house. What that means is, and this is someone I actually have to talk to, or I think it's a pair of people who own the company. I set up each hash rate heater on a Coinos in their own individual Coinos account, coinos.io. I love them. They're one of the few wallet providers that support Lightning Bolt 12, which is great because my preferred pool for the last 2 years has been ocean mining. They seem to pay way more, and they're the only one that's like fully auditable in terms of like every block. You can see how many shares you've contributed, what the value of the block was worth, and then you can just make sure that everything's on the up and up with regards to the hash rate or the reward splitting. So they have a relatively high payout threshold for on-chain. It's like a million sats, I think. So with one single hash rate here, you're going to be waiting a while, but they have that Bull 12 Lightning payout option, which allows me to set up a Coinos account for every single user. And then when the user receives their hash rate heater, they just have to pair the range extender, which is what gets the internet to the miner, and change the Coinos password and recovery email. And there you go. They get paid multiple times a day, because right now I think Ocean's finding on average about 2 blocks a day at 100% luck. So it's really nice. And then there's an auto withdraw feature on Coinos. So it basically is just like a stopgap to get your Bitcoin mining rewards. And like I've set mine to 50,000 sats. So every 50,000 sats I mine, it sends it to my Aqua wallet using a liquid address, which is reusable. But you could even have it send to your cold storage if you wanted. The idea here, and this is something I should go further into. So the idea here is you have 3 conceptual buckets. You have a bucket of Bitcoin, which is your Coinos, which is like your pocket change. And then, so if you want to buy a coffee, you always have some in there. And then if you want to buy like a couch or something, you can use your Aqua wallet, which, I consider that like your billfold. And then you have your cold storage, which obviously you're not going to use unless you want to buy a house or a car or something. So it's nice because you don't have to expose yourself. If you want to do a small purchase, you don't have to expose yourself with like a wallet that has a large balance. There's kind of like a right size for any purchase. And that's kind of where this is going. I see Bitcoin as money. I see these hash rate heaters as like a step towards creating circular economies. So I'd love to talk I don't know if you're familiar with Nunchuck Wallet.
Yes.
So they have a peer-to-peer encrypted chat on that application. So if Coinos had something like that, what I can do is I can join up all of my hash rate heaters. I have like engineers, doctors, surgeons. I have plumbers, electricians, stained glass artists, farmers. So the idea is if I can get all these people in a room, it could still be anonymous because they could use their screen names. Well, then they can exchange goods and services with each other outside of the system, outside of the Canadian inflation and taxation system. And what's cool about it is like almost every single referral from CBP has been like the coolest person. Like I really get along with your viewership. I think there's a lot of commonalities there. So linking these people together on like a monetary network where they can exchange value using Lightning, like the most private way to exchange Bitcoin. I feel like that's an eventuality. I'd love to talk to, what's his name? There's 2 owners that you had them on the pod, right?
Joey did some time ago. Yes.
Sorry if I'm not well researched on who owns it, but
I forget his name. And the fact that you're talking about that encrypted chat feature that you'd like to have implemented, maybe Joey could talk to the people over there and get them to have it done.
I love that. Like every single
one. Nunchuck, why not Coinos, right?
Yeah, like my systems all come with that set up by default. So if there's a monetary and social network layer on top of it, and these people are all earning disposable income passively with their heaters, then you can create these like robust communities of like-minded people using the best money in the world privately, anonymously. That's like kind of the end goal. I think about a year ago I talked about it with Indigenous communities, but I see even more like having that commonality in worldview and understanding of Bitcoin. I think that is the right way to do it. It's that way you're kind of, it's like it's a pull rather than a push, right? You're not forcing this onto people. They're volunteering to engage in commerce with people across the internet or even locally. I've had a lot more local work lately, including some bigger jobs, like in Ottawa and all over Southern Ontario. So the idea is if these people are all changing or they're all exchanging their electric bills for Bitcoin, then there's the opportunity to create those circular economies and benefit. even if Bitcoin goes nowhere, you're looking at a huge benefit just on the sales tax and the taxation side. So and again, using like Coinos they support every kind of Bitcoin eCash, Cashew, Bolt 12, Bolt 11, SegWit, Taproot. There's probably a Liquid, anyway, and it's all done like in the back end. So I've been a huge fan of that, and that's another kind of recent addition where I set it all up in house. On day one, they plug it in, and even like when I'm testing the miners in house, it's all going to that address. So they'll start to see sats rolling in before they actually have the physical product, which is something that's kind of cool.
Now, just to go back, somebody wants to get in contact with you and they want to order a piece. Like, what's the process? Like, how do they start this whole thing? Because, people want to get these units, but they're just wondering what's the wait in order to start getting them, or does it even work for them? Like, what is the whole process for?
It's a really good question. I've had so many viewers, CBP viewers, ask, like, I went on your website, but I don't see the thing there to purchase. And it's because that hash rate heat audit is so important to the process, because you can configure these miners in so many different ways. So understanding your needs and then right sizing the solution for it, I think, is invaluable. And to answer your question again more directly, my website has a contact us page, and that's the best way to do it. I'll set up like a half an hour quick little call where I can, or even I've even done it with people who have hearing impairments. I've set up just emailing back and forth to understand the requirements. But that's the best way to do it, and that's how I can understand your needs and then design a system. Like there's exhaust attachments you can use. So let's say you have a square space, you might not need an external adjustable elbow exhaust. But if you have like a long, narrow hallway with the plug at the end of the hallway, then you're going to want to be able to throw that heat as far from the miner as possible, so you're covering as much square footage with the heating. So again, and then the other thing is use cases. Like, holy moly, you guys are amazing with the use cases. I get so many cool requests. Like, so landlords, they have a rental, they own a rental income property where the upstairs neighbors are too hot, the downstairs the tenants are too cold, and then the owner brings me in. I create hash rate heating systems per floor. The owner collects the Bitcoin. The tenants just feel the heat. They're happy, paying their heating bill. And then there's the other side of that, where I just today I talked to someone who has their heating bill or their electric bill included in their rent, because it's like a single family home subdivided into 3 different rental units, so they only have one bill, 1 meter. So again, he can print money on his landlord, and it's not like he's doing it in a, what would you call it, mischievous or devious way. In many cases, electric heat's already the standard, so it's not like the owner's costs will be any different. So there's all these interesting use cases that are cropping up from you guys, like calling me in or messaging me, texting me, or emailing me about, hey, I this is my circumstance. Is there something that works for me? And I really enjoy it. That's like one of the best parts of this job, like discovering use cases, like greenhouses and firewood drum. Like, there's just so many, and I'm finding new ones every day. So keep talking to me about this stuff, because then I get ideas about ways to optimize the machines for that use case. And now you have a bespoke one-off product that best suits your needs by converting that electric bill into stacked sats.
So who is the most the user that's probably going to benefit this the most? It's just somebody with a cold spot in their home, or if they have a garage they want to heat or something like that. Is this really the ideal person to get one of these units?
Well, the most beneficial, I think, is like the landlord who has a duplex and they need to heat the whole thing. There's almost always a locked utility room where you can house the miners and then utilize the existing infrastructure to disperse the heat. These things are quieter than the actual furnace fan. Like when the furnace is duty cycling, it's actually quieter than that. So you would never know that your home is heated by Bitcoin miners, and I think that's an important aspect of this to mention.
So you said you were dealing with somebody in Saskatchewan, that Saskatchewan person. By the way, there's going to be no Saskatchewan versus Manitoba in the near future, so don't worry about that. No, but in terms of like shipping them out, you said you had some issues previously with shipping.
Yes.
But now the way you've designed this unit, it may have overcome those. So are you able now to start shipping units outside of Ontario, or outside Southern Ontario, where you are located presently?
I absolutely am. Yeah, tomorrow one's going out to Saskatchewan, like I said. I'm still having some issues at the border that having a robust shipping structure or whatever it doesn't really solve. Like I had a parcel, it was one of these hatch rate heaters. It was held up for like a month and a half at the border for FDA review. And I'm like, what does the Food and Drug Administration have to do with this? So, and then tariffs, sometimes they're 100%, sometimes they're 30%. Like I just talked to a client today who got a cold card. And I didn't realize they were made in Canada because he said he got an $80 tariff bill on a $250 cold card. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons. And also it's one of the main reasons I've been focusing on Canada. But the other thing is like, I can do more benefit here. There's more benefit to the end user here. We have cheaper electric prices. We have colder temperatures. So you're talking about more uptime, faster ROI, less impact on the monthly budget with regards to the lower electric prices versus the US. I think only like Wyoming and Iowa are cheaper than us. I don't think anyone comes close to Quebec with regards to electric price. You'd have to go to South America or Bhutan or something for better electric prices. And I don't really feel like going to either of those places. So yeah, and they don't need the heat in those places either. Yeah. So and then the other use case that I want to mention is even if you have expensive electricity, if you don't have a cheap alternative fuel source, like if you're in the mountains and you're on propane, usually the mountains won't have like a natural gas infrastructure. So if you're on like propane or diesel, you're still spending like $500 a month to heat like a single family home. So at that point, who cares what your electric rate is? At least you're getting something back.
Yeah.
So, and then again, long-term capital appreciation really makes it worthwhile. This is something I should mention. So when I started mining in like 2021, 2022, those were terrible years for Bitcoin. Like the price was, I don't know, it's hovering between like 15,000 US to 25,000 US, but the mining was around the same margin. Like it was around 10 to 20% profitability margin, or profit margin. So, but what that means is if you're not forced to sell because you're not mining economically, you're mining for heat, well, then you could take advantage of the capital appreciation. So all that Bitcoin that was mined in 2021, 22, it's up 5x. So just personally, my mining property up north, my bill's always around $1,000 a month, and my income's always around 1,200 with like a K Pro or something. That level of efficiency, but that Bitcoin has like 5x since I earned it. So it's like I made $5,000 a month on like $1,000 bill. So that's what I see the value in these hash rate heaters unlocking, the ability to stack sats without going outside of your budget. So your cost basis is basically irrelevant. That allows you to kind of sit on it long term and then take advantage of the capital appreciation, the number go up technology kind of aspect of it.
So these units, you plug it into a 120 volt outlet. They are Wi-Fi, so you don't have to run any RJ45s or Ethernet cables.
Yep.
In terms of then a user for having it set up, you basically handhold that person from beginning to end. And once you leave, the unit is set up and it's running. Is that correct?
Yeah. So these are less than an hour install, quite a bit less now that with the new system. So half an hour-ish to install. I can do it with a telephone video call, or I can, if you're local to the GTA, I can do it in person. And once they're set up on day one, you just set your in temperature and your out temperature. So let's say you like 22C, you turn it on at 21, turn it off at 23, and set up. And then the lightning, like I said, the lightning payouts are all set up before the unit even arrives. So all you have to do is it's like a TP-Link range extender. You've got to set up the range extender, set up the your desired on and off temperature, and that's it. And there's no maintenance involved with these things. I mean, I did a test where I didn't clean one of these out for a long time, and there was almost no difference when I took the thing apart. Now, people who are mining outside, that's very different. But if you're mining inside, typically the air is already filtered. Now, with the 240 volt systems, they all have filters additionally to them. But the 120 volt systems are like as plug and play as it gets, especially because the payout's already set up. And again, if you have knowledge of mining and you know how to do things, you just create a new pool and you work off of that. But if you don't, it's already set up for you. So and it's a nice kind of segue. Like I think there's value in the educational component too, because it allows you to earn sats while trying to understand, oh, okay, so a stratum address is how you pick your pool. And then you have a user, which is specified by a Bitcoin, an on-chain Bitcoin address. Okay. Oh, and then I see here there's a Bolt 12 offer that sends, every time a block is hit by the pool I'm contributing my hash to, it sends Bitcoin to this wallet. And then this wallet, once it's, you specify your threshold. Okay, every 50,000 sats, it'll go to my Aqua wallet or my cold storage. So once you once you can understand that, it's so easy. And yeah, it's hands-free. Like my units just go on when it's cold here and go off when it's expensive, and they curtail when it's expensive power. Go on when it's cold, go off when it's hot, curtail when it's expensive power, and they just dovetail right into the home's infrastructure, the 240 volt. But yeah, the space heater is the one I'm really focused on, because having less barriers to mining, like dipping a toe, if you're new to mining, dipping a toe into it, that's the best way to do it. One of these plug and play systems. It's also the most affordable. So what's cool and gratifying is I have a lot of clients from last year coming back and getting larger systems or the same system for a different house or for a different use case. They want to move the one they installed last year into the greenhouse and get a larger system for the house. Whatever it is, it's really gratifying to see, people come back. Especially, last year I was installing units at 50, 60,000. And we just hit 120,000 in October. So that really speeds up the ROI as well. And when I do the ROI calculation, I never include capital appreciation like the KGAR. So typically these systems over deliver compared to the projections. And again, I don't pretend to know what the price of Bitcoin is in the future, but I assume up, but I don't include that calculation. Yeah.
So in terms of my unit, I think I have an S19, the vanilla version. It's not a J or a K, or it's just vanilla. And mine just sits in my garage. To be perfectly honest, Toine, I don't even know it's there. I don't see it for days, sometimes even longer. Today I went in the garage just to clear some snow. I got my shovel to clear it. I don't even look at the machine. I totally forgot it was there. Yeah. But it just works. It just works all by itself. There's no maintenance. It just does its thing. So the durability of it is fantastic. But if people do run into a snag, is there any support you provide? Like what level of support and what is it that you provide them so to ensure that if they do have a problem, that they're going to continually hash away and get Bitcoin and heat their rooms?
Yeah, good question. It's different for different products. The hash rate, the 120 volt plug-in hash rate heater is more of a product, whereas the whole home heaters are more of a service. Mm-hmm. So with regards to the hash rate heaters, any issues, typically if it's like a control board or something, I'll just send you it. If it's a hash board, I have extras, I can just send it. But on the 240 volt systems, those ones, I take 4% of the hash, so that essentially that heating system becomes like a slight joint venture. So we're both incentivized to make sure there's high uptime. Any components that fail in the first year, I cover it. And even after the first year, less than 24-hour response time. Usually it's not problems that I have. I have like users around April or May contacting me like, hey, it's getting warm, but I want to keep this thing going. Can I move it to like the garage, or can I put it in a shed to dry firewood, or what else can I do with it? Because they kind of get hooked on like those sats streaming in, and then they see the uptime start to go down starting in like April, May, and they go, oh no, I don't need the heat anymore. What else can I use it for? So I've designed systems, or I've helped users walk through like rediverting, using ducting, rediverting that exhaust into something useful in the summer, or even just like dehydration, like drying things out. It's good for dry because it's low grade heat. So you can specify what temperature you run the chips at using the fan. So if you just need some like 30 degrees Celsius low grade heat to dry something out, that's another way you can set up the miner to optimize for humidity. You can optimize for anything. You can optimize for temperature, humidity, efficiency, noise, maximum income. They're so configurable, and that's again goes back to the value of the heat audit.
What's the most off the wall idea somebody's asked you to do with one of these?
Oh, I've had some crazy ones. Well, like I've had ones that I really wanted to get involved with, but it just didn't make sense. But maybe there's a way in the future. Like sauna is one that I keep on getting questions
I
about.
was going to ask you that too. Yes.
Yeah. So the issue, and this is something I discovered like in my first prototype. My first prototype system was a dual duct route system where you basically had like a Y pipe on the exhaust, and then you had adjustable or mechanical dampers that would open and close depending on, okay, so one goes outside of the house, one goes in the house. If it's too cold, the outside house damper closes, the inside of the house damper opens. But the issue with that is back pressure. And that's the same issue with the sauna concept. If you have a closed system, like air is being drawn from inside of the house, being pushed through the miner, and then also being deposited inside of the house, that's fine. There's no back pressure. But as soon as you try to pull air from inside of the house and shoot it outside of the house, I needed to add an additional fan. It ran less efficiently. I had to increase the fan speed so it was noisier. So I had to I had to do so many redesigns because I'm with these experiments, I find better ways to do things. And I'm always kind of obsessed with, finding the best practices for these hash rate heaters. And then again, like every unit has different, like the difference between an S19, S19J Pro, S19K Pro, S19 XP, they're all very different. They have different numbers of chips. Some require more air, some require less. Some are better suited for hash rate heating. Others are more better suited for economic mining. So it really kind of depends on the needs. But like that sauna one is a request I keep getting, and I'm just like, I just don't. You'd have to go to immersion or something at that point because back pressure is a killer, and having a system that's not in like a closed loop or like not, if you're taking air from one what would you call it, enclosure, and you're kind of pushing it outside or into a different enclosure, you're always going to have that issue. So and I only deal with forced air applications just because they are far less expensive than a immersion mining system. Like unless you're trying to spend $10,000 or more, then you don't want air. But if you have 20 grand to spend, then yeah, immersion systems are great, but they require a shit ton of infrastructure. And if you have that huge infrastructure spend, then you have to justify high uptime, which means you need to go with the newest miners. So that kind of necessitates high uptime, which means that, oh, my Roomba's talking to me. So that's kind of where my head's at, like forced air, trying to utilize as much of the existing infrastructure with regards to the HVAC system and as possible with the 240 volt units. And then the lowest barrier to entry is these 120 volt units, which basically work the same way. And you can duct these units into HVAC. It's all 6-inch standard ducting size. So there's flanges you can get to put them into the HVAC system. And then there's like those adjustable elbows. So if you need to throw the heat into a different direction or have directional heat, you can do that quite easily.
How about the cost for some of these units? Because people are probably asking, if you're watching or listening to this, how much do they cost? Maybe you can give a general idea. I know it's a very wide open question. But
yeah, no, I've got it down. I've got it down now. So the plywood unit that I just showed you, that one is $2,500 plus shipping, and the 240 volt systems, I had a wide range of models I would offer because you can build on any S19. But I've kind of, since the prices dropped, I've kind of made my lowest tier the S19K Pro, which is, it's interesting. At the highest wattage, I think you're paying, your bill is 90% paid, but the lowest wattage, which runs more efficiently, you're actually getting paid like a 15% margin to heat your home. And the idea here is you're going to be running 2/3 of your duty cycle at that down clock speed. So essentially you're getting paid to heat your house if it's if the thing's right sized. And that's become a really critical aspect, making sure that the volume calculation and the heat need is correct. I did have one mess up recently where I under calculated and it wasn't heating the space. Now, I don't see that as being too much of an issue because you're still offsetting a percentage of your heat bill, and you're still earning Bitcoin for your heat. But this house was all electric heat, so I should have overshot it because they didn't have any cheap alternatives like natural gas. So again, like all of these things factor into the design, the decisions I make for the design. And like you said, there's no buttons on these things. If you have power and internet, they just run and they just keep going. And they're, I have safety redundancies on top of it, which I think I mentioned last time I was on the pod. But
run through them again, because for people that are unaware what they are.
Yeah. So the 120 volt systems have a really slick kind of safety redundancy feature where you can cap the wattage. So you can have, so these machines run at a maximum of 1400 watts. If it ever hits 1500 watts, it'll turn off. And the idea here is if your fan dies, the first thing you notice is your wattage starts to climb with your chip temperatures. So there's already in the firmware safety mechanisms for you specify a dangerous chip temperature, which I put much lower than the default. So if the chips ever heat up too much, they'll just turn themselves off. But the other thing is if the fan dies and the chips are heating up, there'll be an increased wattage pull because the machines are going to run, or the chips or the hash boards are going to run less efficiently, and that will trigger the outlet to shut the machine off. So there's all these things that I do to make sure that I can sleep at night, so I'm not worried about my clients. And again, they're just computers. Like there's no like additional insurance aspects to it or anything. But you've heard of crazy things where you've heard of stories, and this was more with the S9. The S19s are really safe, but I like to have those safety redundancies on top of it. Same thing with the 240 volt systems. I use a little temperature sensor puck on the chassis. So if anything starts to heat up on the miner more than it should, it'll automatically turn off, and it actually sends you a notification and tells you over temp reached, email me and figure it out. But I haven't had any fan failures. I've had 2 hashboard failures and 1 control board failure, but the hashboard failures were on a client supplied unit. I didn't do the unit in house. So I always test everything before I send it out for at least 2 weeks. This is kind of what's like, I was pretty backlogged about a couple of weeks ago. I was like 3 or 4 weeks lead time for almost anything. And it was just because the more time I spend setting it up right here, the less time you have to spend and the less issues you'll have. I stand behind these systems, and I've had a bunch of really good feedback from clients recently. So it's been nice to see.
How busy are you these days?
Really busy. I'm still a couple weeks out. Now, luckily, the 120 volt systems they're like more scalable because they are so plug and play. But the 240 volt units require more consulting with regards to just making sure, like, if you're heating a small space, that's one thing. But if you're heating your whole home, it's really important you have the calculations correct. You have everything set up. They're so configurable. There's you can run one miner from 5,500 watts all the way down to 1,000 watts. So over 4,000 watts of range. So that's a big range in BTU output. So making that the right size, making sure it's close enough to the furnace so you're not introducing too much back pressure, making sure the electrical infrastructure is all up to par. These 240 volt systems typically require an outlet to be installed near the furnace. So there's an electrician that has to come in. Now, that said, even at my own house here, I just tee off of the oven. But it's not recommended. It's just something I'm doing here to make things easy. And I definitely include a little note for any install that requires 240 volts to consult an electrician. I list the exact type of outlet that's needed, and then the miner exists on its own circuit. That's the safest way to do it.
What's on the horizon for you?
On the horizon, so growing. I've been a one-man show for the last 2 years, and this year, largely because of the CBP, you guys' sponsorship, I've become so busy that I've actually had to hire. So I do have a partner. Oh. Yeah, I do have a partner.
We're spending the economy, right?
Man, that's great. We're
lowering the unemployment rate. You're welcome, Canada. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's right. So I'm looking for installers and even a fabricator for the wood fabrication part, just to take some of that off my hands, because I need to focus on growing the business. And really my strength is R&D. like a spreadsheet junkie, and I love to test different. There's so many different ways to set up these things. So, when I find an interesting use case, I try a whole bunch of different configurations with regards to the fan, whether it's push or pull or different wattage setups, different fans, different fan speeds, modulating the fan speed. Like there's an infinite number of ways to set it up. So I'm kind of obsessed with trying to figure out what the best practices are for the specific application.
Did I miss anything? Is there something you want to bring up before we
have some notes here? I think we touched on.
I want to make sure that you cover everything here.
Yeah.
I do have one question. The people that you're looking to hire, just because in case there's anybody out there that may be interested, what type of skill sets are you looking for? You said a fabricator and an installer, so it looks like two different types of people you're looking for there.
That's right. Yeah. So it would be like a cabinet maker's skill set for the wood fabrication, and then an installer would, the partner I have in the U.S. Shout out Clark. He actually started working with me because he was a client last year. Loved the system. We had a call scheduled to do the install, and when I picked up the phone to call him, he's like, yeah, I pretty much have it almost already set up, which was really cool for me because, it was intuitive enough for him to do it without any instruction. But that's what I'm looking like. Autodidactic people who are Bitcoiners and hash rate heaters already and have, they want to offload their fiat job and onload some Bitcoin work. And, that's kind of the skill set I'm looking for. Local to the GTA, I've had a lot of work in the GTA. So mobile, local, it's something that I'm just starting to talk to people about now to see what the best fit is. But I can't be driving around everywhere in the winter doing these installs.
Yeah.
And shipping is fine, but your 70-year-old grandma is not going to set this up with a phone call. So
she's buying mutual funds from a buddy.
Yeah,
she's set already. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's it's funny. Yeah, so that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the best fit for those things, and just to help me kind of like I can't grow if I'm doing everything. So I'm at a point now where I'm ready to grow, and I'm ready to offload some of that responsibility onto capable people.
So if you want, we could hook you up to somebody to bring somebody from India. We could get you some cheap labor like that because a lot of people have been doing. You might as well do the same thing.
That's right, the Tim Hortons model.
It works, right? Let's copy pasta that and make it work for you too.
Yeah, so. Their quality's gone way up. So yeah.
Did I miss anything? Any other topic you want to talk about?
I really think we covered all that and then some. I really appreciate your thoughtful questions and your support. It's been an awesome partnership.
Oh no, we're happy, man. Like I said, privately, like you're a good guy, and I passed by your place not too long ago. It was nice to meet you in person. And it's a good product what you offer, and we don't tend to partner up with many companies out there. We're very selective. So we like what you offer, and you like our service. It's a match made in heaven. We're blowing each other right now, which is good. But, any final words before I sign off this podcast? And
no, gratitude for you guys and your viewers. I've really enjoyed meeting a lot of your viewers for these local installs. It's amazing to see like-minded people. Sometimes you feel like you're in a bit of a bubble if you're a Bitcoiner, and building on that community aspect, getting all these people who are hash rate heating together in some sort of forum where they can exchange words and goods and services, I think is going to be the next thing I look at. Maybe that comes in the summer, maybe it's earlier, but that's kind of the future for me.
If people need to reach you, how can they do that?
256heat.com, and I think the contact page is 256heat.com/contact. Best way to just send me a message, tell me a little bit about your situation, set up a call, and that's a great way for me to assess how viable hash rate heating is for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this episode with Toine. Toine, I want to thank you for taking the time to come out and discuss home heating solutions. and earning some sats at the same time. So appreciate you doing this. And that's it, Toine. Final words?
That's it. Thanks to you and Len. Thanks to you, Len and Joey, for everything. And yeah, I hope to be on again soon.
Anytime you want, brother. With that, take care. We'll be back at this on Monday.
See ya.